Okay. First of all, the atmosphere. The thing I want to lead off with was the atmosphere in Rice Eccles on Saturday night was unbelievable. I mean, the way our fans supported our team and the muss and just the whole environment was really what college football is all about. And that was a great experience for our players to be in that environment, set a record, I guess, for single game home attendance, which was awesome. So a lot of thanks goes out to our fans from our program, from our coaches, from our players to let them know we really appreciate that. Really gutsy, gritty performance by our guys. It's become I guess that's the personality of this team is a mentally and physically tough group of guys that slug it out with you till the bitter end. And it was another game where you had to play the full 60 minutes if you wanted to have a chance to win. We did that, and in the end, our guys found a way to make the play at the very end of the game to get the win. So it was a big positive for us. We go back on the road this week to Arizona State. Really good football team, very balanced football team, and right now they are in first place in the South, and so it's a big challenge for our team. So questions.
Along the lines of what you just said about your team, can you talk specifically about the offense's drives in each of the last 3 games to win the game?
Yeah, another situation where the offense really answered the bell. We got the ball, I think we were 73 yards from pay dirt, and we had to get it done. And they put together another, much like UCLA, another drive, although this one had to end in a touchdown, whereas UCLA's needed to end in a field goal. And it was great to see. I mean, it was a combination of running the football, throwing the football. Did a lot of good things in that drive, and the execution was, when we needed it most, was outstanding.
Coach, you talk about the mental toughness of this team. Is it easy to identify where it comes from? Is it a particular group of players? Is it response to the coaching staff? What is it this year that separates it from last?
We definitely have outstanding leadership, and that's not to put down the leaders of the past, because we've had good leadership on this team for a long time, but this year's group has really taken ownership of the team, and it really starts with Nate Orchard. He's the guy that if you have to pick out the leader of the leaders, it's Nate, and they've just the governing from within that is usually associated with all good football teams is there, and so it's great to see have happen. And that's a tough group of guys. Our leaders are a tough group of guys. They're mentally and physically tough as well, and so I think that just permeates throughout the rest of the football team.
Coach, I want to take you back to the way you opened with the atmosphere. I've been to a few college football games, and I've never seen a college football atmosphere like that. It was pretty awesome. How much does that matter as far as you guys are concerned? How much do you guys gain from the crowd?
I think a great deal at home. Now, when you're on the road, you block it out. It may sound, it probably helped us more than it hindered USC, I guess you could say. But our guys really enjoy playing in Rice Eccles, and the muss was on their feet for the entire 60 minutes. They're standing up and cheering their hearts out for our guys, and so I think it definitely gives our team a boost, and the players feed off of that emotion and that excitement.
Coach, can you just elaborate on the resiliency of Travis Wilson, and what was the biggest difference this week as opposed to the last 2?
Well, first of all, Travis is just like the rest of our guys, a tough kid, a competitive kid, and he has handled the situation. It hasn't been ideal for Travis this season, less than ideal, but he's had a great attitude through it all, as has Kendall. Kendall, there was nobody happier in the locker room after the game than Kendall Thompson. And that's the way you want your guys to be. You want your guys to fall in love with the team, not with themselves. And that's what's happened with these guys. It's all about the team. And Travis has handled the ups and downs of the season very well. And as far as the game Saturday night, particularly in the throw game, the 3 things we talked about that really were contributing to our lack of production. A little better pass protection, less drops, and a little more accurate throws. They all came together, and we weren't overly prolific on Saturday night throwing the football. We had a couple hundred yards, which is a big step forward, But we did. I think there was only one drop in the game. Travis was much better with his throws and with his decisions, and the protection was better. So you add all that up, and we had a much better result.
Hiva coming in for Iono, how do you kind of grade his performance in relief, and do you expect him to be able to start this week?
He came in and did a very good job. He graded out within a percentage point or two of Ciosi, and I think he played 27 snaps, and I think Ciosi had 50. And so about a third of the game is what Hiva played for us, and there was very little drop-off, if any. And Hiva's a guy that stepped in before when Ciosi's had issues. Health issues, and so we expect him to, if Ciosi is not available this week, and that's in question right now, then we feel completely confident and comfortable with Hiva being the next guy up.
Coach, I was talking to, I believe it was Nate after the game. He mentioned your strength and conditioning program specifically as a factor in you being able to wear down opponents as opposed to years ago where it may have been the opposite. He talked specifically about the strength and conditioning coaches and how they've helped. Can you speak to how that has improved maybe in recent years?
Okay, we got our strength coach, Doug Elisai, I think is one of the top strength coaches in the country. He's been with us ever since I got the job 10 years ago. He came in as an assistant strength coach. He was made the head strength coach shortly thereafter. So it's been his program for a lot of years. Our players have completely bought into what he's doing. And I have to agree with Nate. I think that what we do in the weight room, and not only from a physical standpoint with the strength and the just the lifts that we do, but from the mental toughness standpoint, we start to instill that mental toughness in the weight room. It's a very demanding program, and it will get you mentally tough at the same time that we're getting the strength gains and the other things that we need to get in the weight room. And so a lot of programs, go in and just work on strength in the weight room, do a set, rest 2 or 3 minutes, do another set. That's not our approach. Our approach is let's get them both done at the same time. And you may sacrifice a little bit of absolute strength on the one end, but the trade-off you get from developing the mental toughness in the weight room is more than worth it in our opinion.
Speaking of the little things, you've taken a different approach to special teams this year, and the special teams have just flat outright excelled. Is it just the approach from the coaching staff, or why is the special team so good this year?
Well, they've been pretty darn good. Now, in this past game, we felt we won the kicking game battle, but not by much. It wasn't the kickoff return that we let go for the touchdown was the big down or negative in the special teams aspect for us. But we feel that we've always felt that the kicking game is a high priority. When Jay Hill was here for those 9 years doing a great job as a special teams coordinator, we were very good on special teams as well. And really, I think the difference this year is our 3 specialists, and I should say 4 because Chase Dominguez, our snapper, is doing an outstanding job. But with Andy Phillips, Tom Hackett, and Kalen Clay to build around, those are 3 talented guys to make it go. And it all starts with players, and those guys are as talented of a group. They might be the best trio in the country. I don't know. I haven't researched that, but they're all 3 very good. And then Chase, like I said, as the snapper, is very dependable.
On USC's 4th down play at the 2-minute mark, who for you did a good job to force the guy out of bounds?
Nate Orchard. It was Nate that it was the belly. We call it a belly flip play. They had run the belly play a time or two earlier in the game with that flip action off of it, but hadn't flipped the football. They'd given on the belly, and we knew they had that play in their arsenal. A lot of teams do in short yardage situations, and so Nate was ready for it. It was a great athlete running the flip play. It was Aguilar who they flipped it to. They lined up the receiver in the backfield, and so it was a great job by Nate coming to balance, forcing Aguilar wide, and getting just enough of a disruption where he stepped out of bounds. And so really Nate was the reason for that.
Just doesn't let up with this schedule. Now you have even a higher ranked team. Can you talk about the strengths of Arizona State, and what do you think of Taylor Kelly and his return?
Yeah, Taylor Kelly. Both quarterbacks are very good. There's really not a marked difference, and so and I guess Taylor had he went out of the game late in the game with maybe a possible concussion. I don't know exactly what it was, but whichever guy plays, they run essentially the same type of offense. They both got good numbers. And they're both quality quarterbacks, and so whichever one is in there really doesn't affect our approach. Got a tremendous receiver, the strong kid, maybe one of the most talented receivers in the country. Some say he's the first receiver taken in the draft. I don't know specifically about all that, but I know he's really good. Defensively, they lost a lot of good guys from last year, but they're starting to play better. They had a little bit of a struggles early on in the season defensively, but they seem to have got those things figured out and are playing very solid football on that side of the ball as well. And I'd say the best way to maybe describe them is balanced. They're a very balanced team that is playing well really in all three phases.
Just 14 points given up against USC with some injuries you're dealing with. Talk about Arizona State and that high-powered offense and some injuries you're dealing with again, and what you expect from Davion and Marcus. Yeah,
well, Davion did some good things for us. Started off with the touchdown return. That was kind of a different type of play where everyone thought it was over, but he was alert and got on the ball and returned it. But Marcus came in the second half and did some really good things for us. A big improvement since the last time he played at Washington State. That was the last extensive playing time he had. But both of them showed up well, and we're going to need to count on both of them a lot the rest of the way. I mean, as you mentioned, we got some guys who may not be available. There's not a lot known this early in the week, but if their number's called, then they need to be ready, and they certainly did a nice job on Saturday. And as you mentioned, 14 points given up to that offense. That's a talented offense. They got weapons all over the place. Their offensive line is physical. So that's a really it speaks very well of our defense to be able to hold them to 14 points.
Coach, your 2008 team won a lot of close ball games like this team has. You already talked about the leadership, but what other similarities do you see in this year's team compared to that team?
Oh, similarities. Well, we had King Louis, so we had special teams, a special teams weapon that and where he was doing it, punting and kicking by himself. We got Hackett and Phillips as a combination, but there's similarities on the special teams as far as the production we're getting. Defensively, we played good defense that year. I think the defenses are very, very comparable. Offensively, I think maybe we didn't struggle in the throw game as much as we have at times this year. We're hopefully getting that worked out, but very good tailback in both years and strong running game. And so I think you can draw a lot of parallels. The difference is the level of competition this year seems to be pretty stiff. And although we did beat 3 or 4 top 25 teams that year, I think I can't remember exactly, but there was a fair amount of top 25 teams that we were able to defeat in that season as well.
Coach, being reaching the level, being bowl eligible now, is that how do you fight the I hate to use the word complacency, but that no matter what happens from here on out, the kids know they're going bowling.
Yeah.
How do you keep them going to reach even greater heights?
Well, there's a competitive group, and one of our mantras is never be satisfied, and I don't sense that at all. That they're in any way, shape, or form think they've arrived and accomplished what they set out to accomplish, because that's not true. I mean, that was one of our goals for sure, is to become bowl eligible. But this group, I would be shocked if they fall into that mode, and that's just something I don't foresee happening. And with the schedule, the challenges every single week, one after another, there is you'd have to be a guy that is pretty short-sighted to put yourself in that situation, because there's so many challenges ahead.
This is a team you haven't beaten for a while. What about this matchup with Arizona State makes it so difficult and then so difficult to beat?
Well, you're right. We haven't. Last year we had them on the ropes. I think we had a 10-point lead deep into the fourth quarter, 10 or maybe a little more than that. I can't remember exactly the score. And we felt like we let that one get away from us, and that was disappointing. The year before, it was one of the worst games we've played in the Pac-12. We got beat from start to finish, and then I can't remember what happened the year before that. But anyway, you're right. It's been a while, and we've just got to play our game and do the things that have got us to this point, so far, and not try to make any wholesale changes, and just continue to get better at what we're doing. And I think that's really all we can do at this point.
So with Tevin Carter out, we've seen.
How do you know he's out?
I mean, in the previous games.
Been out? Yeah, he's been out.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
With Tevin Carter having been out against when he went out against UCLA and Washington State. I mean, I'm talking about those games. We've
Sure.
seen both Marcus Williams and Andre Godfrey,
Mm-hmm.
and then in this last game against SC with Tevin Carter unable to go, Marcus Williams was plugged in. Can you talk about the decision to go with Marcus Williams versus Andre Godfrey, who played the previous two?
Yeah, I think it's really, Coach Sataki and Coach Scally are evaluating that situation and which one, as per the opponent, would seem to be the best fit, and best give us the best opportunity to win. Also, Andre's been battling a little bit of an injury, and so he hasn't been at 100%, and so that plays into the decision as well. And we also moved Eric Rowe to safety for the first half. He played the entire first half at safety, which is another option that we had this past week, and that's why Davion Orfe was the starting corner in place of Eric. And so there's 2 or 3 ways we can go with that. But the bottom line is, as per the opponent we're playing, we want to put the guys in the best position to win and succeed, and that could change from week to week depending on the health of our guys and as well as the scheme that we're facing and where the strengths and weaknesses of us versus them, and just trying to make sure we get the best matchups. And so there is no hard and fast rule. It's just whoever we think is going to be the right guy for that particular opponent.
Kyle, can you expound on what you said after the game about things you needed to address this season, namely getting more takeaways and closing out games?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was very apparent when we look back, and we knew it. It's not like the season ended last year and we thought, oh, yeah, we haven't got any takeaways or we haven't won close games. And we knew that going as we went through the season. But as we evaluated the season in its entirety, once the season was over and dissected everything, it became very apparent that those were indeed the 2 biggest things that needed to change this year if we're going to have a chance to improve ourselves as a football team. And we've done that. We've been able to get a decent amount of takeaways. It hasn't been an abundance of them, but we're right up there in good shape, and we've taken care of the football as well, because it's a 2-edged sword. I mean, the takeaway or the turnover margin is played on both sides, and so we have done a nice job with that. And as importantly is being able to finish better, be better finishers, and we've won 3 close games in a row now, right down to the end. And last year it seemed it didn't seem, we were mostly on the other side of that, the other side of the coin.
Kyle, the Pac-12 presidents are expected to put multi-year scholarships into effect when they meet today. What's your view of that subject?
Well, that's actually, a few years back, that was something we did. I mean, it wasn't something that just came about. I mean, you could give award, it seems like it was 2 or 3 years ago where that rule changed, where you could award the scholarship the entire time. And so I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to it. All I know is that we'll follow suit, whatever is decided and determined. I'm sure we'll be on board with that. That's more an administrative question than a question for me. But there was a period of time a few years ago that was the case, and it kind of went away a little bit, but now it appears to be coming back. So it's not brand new, but whatever the conference, I don't know if they're going to come up with a standardized way to handle it throughout the conference, leave it up to each individual institution. But whatever it is, I'm sure we'll be on board to put us in a good situation, because it really comes to recruiting. It ties to recruiting, and we don't want to be at a disadvantage for certain in that area.
Arizona State's defense started out so young, and people were talking about, they're replacing 9 starters. Mm-hmm. Have they improved significantly since that UCLA game where they really broke?
Yeah, I think they have, without a doubt. And, that was a kind of an anomaly for them, that game. UCLA was over 60 points, I think, in that game. And so they've certainly got things figured out. They're playing a lot better defense right now, and that's really Todd Graham's signature on the team is his defense. He runs the defense, from what I understand. He's the guy that puts it together and calls it during the course of the game. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I've understood. And so he's he knows what he's doing, and they appear to have got their guys settled in and playing pretty good defense.